The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Plaza Hotel sparkled overhead as I stood in my cheap clothes. A simple black dress from a department store facing my sister Amanda's perfectly manicured scowl. Absolutely not, she hissed, perfectly painted lips curling in disgust. Dad's 60th birthday is the social event of the season. We can't have you embarrassing us in. She gestured vaguely at my outfit. That. Behind her, through the ornate doors of the hotel's grand ballroom, I could see the elite of New York's financial world gathering. My father's birthday celebration was less about family and more about impressing his business associates, at least according to my status-obsessed siblings. The invitation said family only, I replied calmly, adjusting the simple pearl necklace my mother had left me before she passed. Family who understand the importance of appearance, my brother Ryan chimed in, his custom Tom Ford suit practically gleaming under the lobby lights. You look like an intern at a job interview. If they only knew that my cheap dress cost more than their monthly mortgage payments. I just didn't feel the need to flash designer labels like Armour. Being the chairman of VXG Global, one of the largest private equity firms in the world, had taught me the difference between wealth and worth. Move aside, Amanda commanded when I didn't immediately retreat. We have actual important guests arriving. As if on cue, the hotel's revolving doors spun, admitting Charles Wellington III, my father's oldest friend and business partner. I suppressed a smile, knowing what was coming. Charles spotted me immediately, his eyes widening in recognition. He quickened his pace, approaching our little group with purpose. Madam Chairman, he said, bowing slightly. I didn't know this was your father's celebration. The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda's perfectly sculpted eyebrows shot up so high they nearly disappeared into her hairline. Ryan's drink stopped halfway to his mouth. Charles, I nodded, enjoying their confusion. How's the merger proceeding? The paperwork will be on your desk Monday morning, he replied. Though I must say, having the chairman of VXG Global waiting in the lobby is rather unusual. Wait, Ryan sputtered, his expensive scotch nearly spilling. What did you call her? Charles looked between my siblings, genuine confusion crossing his features. Madam Chairman? Surely you know your sister acquired VXG Global 6 months ago. Amanda's face had gone from shock to pale. That's impossible. VXG is worth billions. $47.3 billion at last valuation, I confirmed. Though we're expecting that to rise after Monday's merger announcement. The story of how I'd ended up here, chairman of one of the world's largest private equity firms while my family thought I was struggling at some entry-level job, began 5 years ago. After Mom's death, Dad had thrown himself into work, leaving the family business increasingly in the hands of my ambitious but short-sighted siblings. While they focused on social climbing and status symbols, I'd seen the bigger picture. Using my inheritance from Mom, significantly smaller than my siblings' trust funds because I'd refused to follow the family-approved career path, I'd started investing in undervalued companies. My first big break came when I spotted a pattern in the market that everyone else had missed. While traditional investors were focusing on tech startups, I saw opportunity in overlooked industrial companies. One successful acquisition led to another, each carefully hidden behind layers of holding companies and private trusts. But you work at some small investment firm, Amanda stammered, her worldview visibly crumbling. Actually, Charles interjected, your sister owns that firm. And about 30 others. VXG Global's acquisition was just the most recent. Ryan grabbed my arm, his expensive watch digging into my skin. Why didn't you tell us? I gently removed his hand. Would you have believed me? You were too busy mocking my poor career choices to notice what I was building. The hotel doors opened again, admitting more of New York's financial elite. Each one nodded respectfully in my direction, several calling out Madam Chairman as they passed. Amanda's face had shifted from shock to calculation. Always the social climber, always looking for an angle. Well, obviously we need to update the seating arrangements. You should be at the main table dash. No need, I cut her off. I'm perfectly comfortable where you originally placed me, at the back with the unimportant guests. But that's near the service entrance. Ryan protested. People will talk. Let them, I smiled. Some of my best deals started in service entrances. Speaking of which, I nodded to a group of people entering through the side door. the CEOs of 3 Fortune 500 companies, all of whom preferred to avoid the spotlight. If you'll excuse me, I have some actual business to discuss. As I walked away, I heard Charles explaining to my dumbfounded siblings exactly how much power their poor sister really wielded in the financial world. Inside the ballroom, Dad was holding court near the main stage, unaware of the drama unfolding in the lobby. He'd been too busy with work to notice how his children had turned out, one daughter building an empire in silence, the others building nothing but appearances. My phone buzzed with a message from my executive team. Merger documents ready for final review. Should we proceed with Monday's announcement? I looked at my father, remembering how he'd built his own success from nothing. How different would things have been if he'd paid as much attention to his children's character as he had to their social status? Hold the announcement, I texted back. Tonight's going to be interesting. The birthday celebration was in full swing, crystal glasses clinking as New York's elite maneuvered for position around my father. From my carefully chosen table near the service entrance, I watched the social dynamics play out like a perfectly choreographed dance. Amanda and Ryan were working the room frantically, their earlier shock now transformed into desperate attempts to capitalize on their newfound connection to Madam Chairman. I could see them dropping my name into conversations, claiming they'd always known about my success. My phone buzzed again, another message from my executive team. Wall Street Journal requesting comment on Monday's merger. Also, your father's company's Q3 reports just came in. You were right about the discrepancies. I took a slow sip of champagne, remembering the real reason I'd kept my success hidden for so long. 3 years of careful investigation had revealed what my siblings' social climbing had concealed. Our father's company was in serious trouble. Mind if I join you? Charles Wellington settled into the chair beside me, loosening his bow tie. The vultures up there are circling rather obviously tonight. I nodded toward where Amanda was practically hanging on the arm of an investment banker. They still think money is about who you know, not what you know. Speaking of knowing things, Charles lowered his voice. Have you told him yet? About VXG? Or about knowing his company is 3 months from bankruptcy? Charles winced. Both, I suppose. Though the second one might be more pressing. I watched my father laugh at something Ryan was saying, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. The weight of his company's troubles showed in the new lines on his face, the slight slump in his shoulders. He built that company from nothing, I said quietly. While Mom raised us, he worked 18-hour days, determined to give us everything he never had. Somewhere along the way, he forgot that everything should include values, not just valuables. And now his CFO has been cooking the books for years, his market share is collapsing, and my dear siblings are too busy planning charity galas to notice the ship is sinking. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, that the daughter they tried to keep away from the party could buy the entire hotel it was being held in, while the company they were all so proud of was quietly imploding. My phone buzzed once more. Singapore office confirms acquisition of Parker Industries complete. You now control 60% of your father's market sector. Time to move? Charles asked, noting my expression. I stood, smoothing my cheap dress. Time to save the family business, whether they like it or not. Making my way to the stage, I caught Amanda's eye. She made a frantic slashing motion across her throat, still trying to keep the embarrassing sister away from the spotlight. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke into the microphone, my voice cutting through the party's chatter. I believe it's time for the evening's special presentation. Dad looked up, confusion crossing his features. This wasn't on the carefully planned schedule. Most of you know Edward Harrison as a brilliant businessman, a pillar of New York finance. I clicked a remote and the ballroom's screens came to life. What you might not know is how close he came to losing everything this year. The room went silent. Ryan choked on his drink. Amanda's face went pale. Dad, I continued, looking directly at him, your CFO has been falsifying reports for the past 3 years. Your market share isn't growing, it's collapsing. By my calculations, you have less than 90 days before the truth becomes impossible to hide. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dad's face had gone ashen. But tonight isn't about problems. I clicked the remote again, showing a new set of figures. It's about solutions. About family. The screens displayed a complex web of companies, my companies, all connecting back to one central point. Harrison Global, my father's life's work. Over the past 5 years, while some of us were busy buying designer labels and country club memberships, I was building something else. Something that could save what you built, Dad. Understanding began to dawn on his face. VXD Global, he whispered. That was you. I nodded. Along with about 30 other companies. While Amanda and Ryan were planning parties, I was planning a rescue. The screens showed the next phase. A complete restructuring of Harrison Global, backed by the full power of my corporate empire. The merger announcement on Monday isn't just another business deal, I explained. It's a lifeline. VXG Global isn't acquiring Harrison Global, we're saving it. Modernizing it. Making it what it should have been all along. Amanda rushed forward. This is ridiculous. Dad, you can't let her dash. Let her what? Charles stood up. Save the company you were too busy spending to notice was failing? Dad raised his hand, silencing the room. How? He asked simply. How did you know? How did you build all this? I learned from you, Dad. The real you, not the social status version. I watched how you built your company, how you spotted opportunities everyone else missed. I just did it quietly without the galas and designer suits. The screens showed the final piece of the plan. A new corporate structure where Harrison Global would become the centerpiece of a modern, integrated financial empire. You taught us that real success isn't about looking rich. It's about building something that lasts. Some of us just took that lesson more seriously than others. Ryan stepped forward, his arrogance finally cracking. But we're the ones who stayed in finance. Who followed the family path. No, I corrected him. You followed the appearance of the path. I followed its purpose. Turning back to Dad, I saw tears in his eyes. The birthday gift I wanted to give you isn't just saving your company. It's showing you that at least one of your children understood what really matters. The room erupted in applause, not the polite social kind, but genuine appreciation for what they were witnessing. A father's legacy not just preserved but transformed. A family business not just saved but revolutionized. Amanda and Ryan stood frozen, their world of social climbing and status symbols crumbling around them. The sister they tried to ban from the party had just revealed herself as one of the most powerful figures in global finance. So, I smiled, raising my champagne glass. Happy birthday, Dad. Your company's future is secure, your legacy is intact, and your poor daughter isn't so poor after all. Dad made his way to the stage, ignoring the crowd's reaction. I've been so blind, he said quietly. So focused on the wrong things. It's not too late, I assured him. For any of us. Monday's announcement isn't just about business. It's about family. About building something together, this time with the right priorities. As the party transformed into an impromptu celebration of not just a birthday but a new beginning, I watched my siblings struggle to process their new reality. The sister they judged by her clothes had quietly become the one who would determine their future. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't showing people how wrong they were, it's showing them how right they could have been. And as I stood there in my cheap dress, holding the future of our family's legacy in my hands, I realized that true wealth isn't about what you wear to the party. It's about what you build when everyone else is too busy partying to notice. The afternoon sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my parents' mansion as the family gathered for their annual summer barbecue. While my sister Victoria lounged by the pool in her designer swimwear, I sat quietly in the corner, laptop open, reviewing the final architectural plans for what would soon become the city's tallest building. Emma, darling, do close that computer, my mother called out. It's a party, not a coffee shop. I smiled, knowing that tomorrow's groundbreaking ceremony would change everything. But for now, I played my part, dressed in simple jeans and a white blouse that Victoria had already criticized as outlet mall chic. Still working on those little building designs? Victoria smirked, adjusting her Gucci sunglasses. How cute. If only she knew those little designs were revolutionizing sustainable architecture across 3 continents. My firm, quietly built over the last decade, had become the most innovative force in green engineering. Speaking of buildings, my father interjected, settling into his favorite lounger. Victoria just closed on her 3rd vacation home. Aspen this time, wasn't it? Victoria beamed. 4 bedrooms, private ski lift access. Michael's bonus was particularly generous this year. Meanwhile, my mother sighed, giving me that familiar look of disappointment. Emma still rents that tiny apartment downtown. I took a sip of water, thinking about the penthouse I actually lived in, when I wasn't traveling between our global offices. The apartment suits me fine. Suits you fine because it's all you can afford, Victoria laughed. The poor sister can't even buy a house. Remember when she turned down that partnership at Dad's firm to start her own company? My phone buzzed, another message from my project director. Final permits approved. Press embargo lifts at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Forbes exclusive ready to go. I just want what's best for you, my mother added, patting my hand condescendingly. There's still time to join your father's development firm. A proper job with a proper salary. If they only knew that my little company had quietly acquired Dad's firm 6 months ago. The market's really hot right now, Victoria continued. Even on your modest income you could at least afford a small condo. Michael knows a mortgage broker who handles lower-income applications. Another message lit up my phone. Mayor's office confirmed for tomorrow's ceremony. All news networks scheduled for live coverage. What's this project you're always working on anyway? My father asked, frowning at my laptop. Before I could answer, Victoria interrupted. Probably some tiny renovation. That's all she can get with her reputation. The irony of her words made me smile. In less than 24 hours my reputation would be front-page news. My phone buzzed again. Tower's final specs confirmed, 128 stories, making it the city's tallest structure. Your name will be visible from 3 states. Actually, my father set down his drink. I heard rumors about a major new development downtown. Something about a revolutionary green tower. My firm lost the bid to some mysterious new company. I kept my expression neutral, though inside I was smiling. That mysterious company was my own, operating under one of our subsidiary names. Speaking of development, Victoria chimed in. Did you all see the article about the new female billionaire architect? No one knows who she is, but apparently she's revolutionizing sustainable design. Must be nice, my mother sighed, looking at me pointedly. Some women actually make something of themselves. The catering staff, secretly hired from my own 5-star hotel, began serving lunch. Victoria made a show of offering to pay for my meal, since times must be tough. My phone lit up again. This time from my legal team. Share transfer complete. You now own 60% of downtown real estate. Tower announcement will make you the largest property owner in the city. Emma dear, my mother leaned in, voice dripping with concern. I saw you taking the bus again. We can help you with a car down payment. The bus is fine, Mom. It's embarrassing, Victoria declared. A Marshall family member on public transport? Thank God none of my friends have seen you. Dad pulled out the morning paper, frowning at the business section. Says here this mystery architect is unveiling something big tomorrow. Supposedly will change the city skyline forever. Must be nice to have that kind of success, Victoria smirked. Unlike some people who can barely afford rent. Just then my project director's message came through. Final inspection passed. Walker Tower is ready for tomorrow's revelation. All 128 floors of sustainable innovation. Shall we proceed with the name unveiling? I typed back quickly. Proceed as planned. At least tell us what you're working on, my mother pressed. Some small office renovation? You could say I'm aiming high, I replied cryptically. How high can you aim from a rented apartment? Victoria laughed. The poor sister can't even buy a house, let alone build anything significant. The afternoon sun caught the edge of my laptop screen, where the final renders of Walker Tower were displayed. Its revolutionary design would redefine sustainable architecture globally. Tomorrow my family would learn that the poor sister had built not just a tower but an empire. My father's phone buzzed with a news alert. His eyes widened slightly as he read the preview of tomorrow's headline. He looked up at me, confusion crossing his face. I closed my laptop, smiled and said, anyone want to join me for breakfast downtown tomorrow? Say around 9 a.m.? I have something interesting to show you. The next morning dawned clear and bright, perfect weather for a groundbreaking ceremony. I stood in my actual office, the entire 50th floor of one of my existing buildings, watching news helicopters circle the construction site where Walker Tower would soon rise. At precisely 8:55 a.m., My family arrived in the lobby, looking confused and slightly irritated at being summoned downtown so early. "Emma, darling," my mother started as they were escorted up by my private security team. "What is all this about? And why are there so many news fans outside?" Before I could answer, they stepped into my office and their jaws collectively dropped. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, my city, though they didn't know it yet. Digital screens covered the walls, displaying real-time updates from construction sites worldwide. What is this place?" Victoria stammered, her designer handbag clutched tightly. "My office," I said simply, checking my watch. "Well, one of them." Dad's phone buzzed. Then Mom's. Then Victoria's. The embargo had lifted and the news was breaking. Breaking news. Mystery architect revealed, Emma Walker Marshall to build world's most sustainable skyscraper. My father's hands shook as he read aloud. Emma Marshall, CEO of Walker Sustainable Developments, announces groundbreaking of Walker Tower, set to become the city's tallest and most innovative building. Estimated value, $4.2 billion. Victoria grabbed his phone, face paling. Walker Sustainable Developments, annual revenue exceeding $12 billion. Projects across 5 continents, revolutionary green technology. Those little building designs, I smiled, pressing a button that transformed one wall into a massive display of my global projects. They've been quite successful. My mother sank into a leather chair. But you take the bus." "I believe in sustainable transport," I replied. "Also, I own the transit company." A helicopter appeared outside the windows. My helicopter, with the Walker Developments logo gleaming in the morning sun. "That small apartment," Victoria whispered, "is the penthouse of a building I own," I completed. "Actually, I own most of downtown now, including Dad's firm. Surprise, you've been working for me for the past 6 months." My father's face went white. "The mysterious buyer. That was you?" "Ms. Marshall," my assistant entered. "The mayor and press are ready for the ceremony." The screens switched to live news coverage. Reporters stood before the massive construction site, where a covered-scale model waited to be revealed. "That's not all," I continued, pulling up the architectural plans. "Walker Tower will be the world's first truly self-sustaining skyscraper. Zero carbon footprint, revolutionary solar technology, vertical gardens on every 3rd floor. It's already fully leased. There's a waiting list of Fortune 500 companies." Victoria stared at the plans, then at her own office building visible through the windows. "Is that why my company's rent tripled last month?" "Actually, I own that building too," I smiled. "Don't worry, family discount." The weeks following the Walker Tower announcement transformed my family's perception completely. Gone were the condescending comments about my little company and pitying looks about my lifestyle choices. Now, at our regular Sunday family dinners, hosted in my actual penthouse with its rooftop garden and helipad, they sat in stunned silence as global leaders and business titans called for video conferences. President of Singapore on line 1, my assistant announced during dessert. Regarding the Marina Bay project. My mother nearly dropped her spoon. "The president. Tell him I'll call back," I replied, sipping my tea. Family time. Victoria, who had spent years flaunting her vacation homes, now fidgeted uncomfortably in her seat. The Forbes article listing my net worth at $18.2 billion had effectively ended her bragging rights. "Emma," my father cleared his throat, "about the firm's new sustainable initiative." "Already approved," I cut in. My board, greenlit the $100 million renovation last week. "We're converting all properties to zero-emission standards." My mother, still struggling to process reality, gestured at my simple black turtleneck. "But darling, you could afford any designer." "Mom," I smiled, "I don't wear designer labels because I own the manufacturing facilities that make them." The skyline visible through the windows was already changing. Walker Tower's innovative design had sparked a global conversation about sustainable architecture. My inbox overflowed with partnership requests from governments and corporations worldwide. "Ms. Marshall," my assistant reappeared. The royal family's office confirmed next month's consultation for their net zero palace renovation. Victoria choked on her wine. "The royal family. Just a small project." I said, remembering her words about my tiny renovations. Though the Queen's quite passionate about sustainable design. My father, examining the scale model of Walker Tower displayed in my living room, shook his head in disbelief. All those years while you thought I was struggling? I finished. I was building something meaningful. Something that will actually change the world. The evening news played silently on one wall, coverage of Walker Tower's construction progress. The reporter stood before the massive site, discussing how the building would revolutionize urban development. But why didn't you tell us? My mother asked softly. Would you have understood? I replied. When I started, you were all so focused on appearances, on status. I wanted to create actual value, not just project success. My phone lit up with another message. Tokyo government approved Walker District proposal. 200-acre sustainable city development. The funny thing is, I continued, watching the sunset paint the city in golden hues, success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Victoria stared at her reflection in the window, her designer outfit suddenly seeming insignificant against the backdrop of my empire. All those times I mocked you taught me patience, I completed, and the value of underestimation. As my family prepared to leave, still processing their new reality, my father paused at the door. Emma, we're sorry. Don't be, I said, turning to watch a crane lift materials to the growing heights of Walker Tower. Everything worked out exactly as planned. The next morning's headlines would announce Walker Development's expansion into sustainable city planning. My little company was about to reshape not just skylines, but entire urban landscapes. Sometimes success speaks louder than words. And my tower, rising floor by floor into the clouds, was just the beginning of my story.